Thank you, thank you. Hello, all wisers. My name is Jean. I have lived in Budapest for 3 or 4 years. I studied philosophy and mathematics, and I have the pleasure today to introduce one of the main topics in philosophy, which is epistemology or theory of knowledge. Um, um, I just want to make sure that you guys are aware we are recording this. And if you guys are joining us via Zoom, if someone else is, outside the office or something, you can type your question in chat and we can answer you. I'm going to keep my eye on chat so that I can keep track. All right, without further ado, what is epistemology? We have been familiarized with the main branches of philosophy. Anybody wants to name a main branch of philosophy before we mention them? Metaphysics, that's good. That's very good. Anything else? I'll put metaphysics down here at the end. No. Aesthetics, very nice. Well, clearly epistemology is one of them, right? So, and finally, well, we should have been, oh, I just scrapped it. Never mind. So we should have started with logic actually, because that's the beginning of the whole search. So logic, epistemology, ethics, aesthetics, and metaphysics are the five branches of philosophy. To understand more about what epistemology is and what's the importance of this search, I here have a video just to kick it off with one of the best educators and physicists in the 20th century. If you don't know him, this is Richard Feynman, highly recommended person. You can find his lectures on YouTube in Caltech. You can read his lectures of physics, world famous. We're going to listen to him give an introduction, a brief example, and then we can discuss.
You take any crazy idea. I don't know, it's hard to make up a very crazy one thing, witches or something like that, and you tell about what people used to believe in witches, and of course nobody believes in witches now, and you say, how could they believe in witches? Then you turn around and you say, let's see, what witches do we believe in now? What ceremonies do we do? Every morning we brush our teeth. What is the evidence that the brushing the teeth does us any good in cavities? So you start wondering, are we all, imagine as the Earth turns on the orbit, there's an edge between light and dark. And along that edge, all the people along that edge were doing the same ritual for no good reason. Just like in the Middle Ages, they had other rituals. And you try to picture this perpetual line of toothbrushers going around the Earth. It's to take the world from another point of view. Now, it may well be that brushing teeth is a very good thing because it gets rid of cavities, and you can find out whether it does or it doesn't by trying to find out. Now, you can ask your dentist. He says, of course. And you say, how about evidence? I have not found the evidence from dentists because they just learned it in school. Now, I'm not trying to argue that it's good or bad to brush teeth. What I'm trying to argue for is to think about things from a new point of view.
So Richard Feynman here is talking about how is it that we know what we really know, which is the essential question in theory of knowledge. So the example he mentions is we make fun of people who believe in magic or who believe in witches these days. So if you hear someone, believe in magic, believe in Santa Claus, believe in the magic of witches, in fairy tales, etc., you're like, but how do you know this? Like, this is of course not the case. This is of course not true. This is childish. But Richard Feynman draws our attention to another ritual that we all engage in, which is every morning we brush our teeth. Every single morning without fault, I hope, all of us wake up in the morning and we brush our teeth and then we go out, believing that this is good for us. Now, has any of us checked the actual evidence for this claim? Has any of us checked the actual studies? Do we know even what is the substance that we're brushing our teeth with? Do we know that this has worked for other people? If it worked for other people, does this mean that this applies to us as well? So these things are very weird, yet we make fun of those people who believe in magic, but it appears that this is the same kind of ritual that we all kind of, just accept, face value. All of these things that we do without thinking, really, are under question when we are doing philosophy, especially when we are doing epistemology, because the main question is, how is it that you know? Why do you know? And what is the method that you establish truth and evidence with? And once you get down that rabbit hole, you understand and you realize that most of the problems in the universe, most of the politics, most of the wars, most of the economic crisis, they all reside in that space or somewhere around it. And knowing about it and discussing it, as we will find out, is a very active still search. It's a very active field. And it is becoming more and more now with the scientific development and with the rise of quantum mechanics and all that stuff. So this is exactly what I just said. Epistemology is called theory of knowledge. That epistemic root has always to do with knowledge. If you ever hear that word again, it's always the same meaning. It has to do with knowledge. It basically answers the question, what is it knowledge? How do we know? And what do we actually know? Another example that I put here after Feynman's example is drinking water. So for example, everybody assumes that drinking water is good for you. We all believe it, etc. But how did we know that? Is it because other people told you? Do you believe anything other people say? Like, that's hardly advisable. What guarantees that this experiment that other people did is replicable to you? Not everything other people do and works for them works for you. Is it good in absolute? Like, is just drinking water good with any quantity, anytime, anywhere? Or is there a certain limit or a certain quantity or a certain method for drinking, etc.? I'm just taking, a very easy example just to show you that what we claim that we are absolutely sure of is almost all the time highly questionable. And again, whenever we fight with our parents, with our friends, with our partners, we take a stance that we are absolutely sure of something. And it is my job, at least today, in the next 20 minutes, to try to shake that trust a little bit more. A philosopher by the name René Descartes was thinking about this problem in the 17th century. And he wrote in his book, he wrote two famous books, Meditations 1 and 2. And he wrote the following. He imagined a certain demon, a certain devil that is tricking him all the time. And what he was thinking about is, well, if this devil is tricking me all the time, maybe what I'm seeing is not really the case. Maybe what I'm smelling is not really the case. And of course, you can relate to this because we all have dreams. You can have a very vivid dream when you see and smell and hear and taste, but then it turns out not to be the case. It turns out that this is not reality. And so Descartes is positing that maybe there's some magical being, right, that is always causing him to not see what is actually there and not know what's actually there. And so what he says is, now how do I know that he, meaning the devil, has not brought it about that there is no earth at all, no heavens, no extended things, no shape, no magnitude, no place. And yet all these things appear to me to exist just as they are now. Or even whenever I add 2 and 3 or count the sides of a square, I make a judgment about something even simpler, if anything simpler can be imagined. Now, the reason I'm mentioning all of this now is to just follow Descartes' line of thought and to provoke you a little bit, and maybe here we can have some discussion. The most sure thing that Descartes is of is his experience, so whatever he sees and whatever he experiences. And he then mentions two things that he's absolutely sure of, that 2 plus 3 is 5, and that a square has 4 sides. Now, are we really sure that 2 plus 3 is 5? Am I allowed to ask that question? Does that sound weird? Who here thinks, by the show of hands, who here thinks that's absolutely 2 plus 3 is absolutely 5? Like, there's no other way. Can you show hands or can you do something? Absolutely sure, everybody 100%. Okay, how do you know that? I can hear you. Yeah, it's better if people come closer to the mic if that's possible. So there's two different things that you've said, and I really love that comment you made, because I think this represents people's general opinion about the things. So you're combining two different points on philosophy of mathematics. You're combining the sort of naturalistic view When you said 2 apples plus 5 apples, or 2 books, you said, I forgot what you really used, but 2 objects plus 3 objects is 5 objects, right? So this is kind of a naturalistic view. So nature has it. And then in the same answer, at the same time, you said, oh, but we all agreed. These two views are kind of separate, because if we all agree that 2 plus 3 is 5, if it's because of agreement, then if we all agree that 2 plus 3 is 6 all of a sudden, then it becomes 6. Whereas if it is a property of nature, it will not change. Oh, absolutely. So here, this naturalistic view that was proposed, that, okay, 1 plus 1 is 2, so that's 1 apple plus 1 apple makes 2 apples. This has nothing to do with this other view that says, oh, you know what, mathematics is just a game we're playing. And number 1 is not really anything in nature. Number 2 is not really anything in nature. It's just like a chess game. And we make the rules, and we've decided that 1 plus 1 equals 2. And we could have made 1 plus 1 equal anything, or 2 plus 3 equal anything. And if that is the case, then we cannot respect when Descartes says in this paragraph, oh, the devil is tricking me into believing 2 plus 3 is not 5. Because it's the easiest thing ever. This is a convention now. Just like we call a table, you know, in Latin you can call it mensa. In French you can call it table. You know, it's just semantic convention. You can call it whatever you want. If that is mathematics, then you have to answer another question, which is, how is it so successful in the world? Okay, we're not going to talk about philosophy of mathematics today. I just want to again engage you in the I just want to engage you in the art of, okay, the things that we are very sure and very certain about might not be always that easy to demonstrate or prove or to be sure about. Now, Descartes continued his thinking, and he tells the story in his meditations that he brings all his beliefs like a bunch of apples in a basket. And he starts removing the bad apples from the basket. And he asks, what is it that I'm absolutely sure of? What's that I'm absolutely sure, even if the devil is tricking me into believing everything, you know, tricked in the universe, I'm sure of absolutely one thing, that my mind exists. I'm absolutely sure that I am thinking, even when I'm thinking wrongly about something, even when I'm tricked by some sort of imaginary being, I'm sure that I am experiencing my own consciousness. And this is when he just wrote his famous, probably the most famous line in the history of philosophy, cogito ergo sum in Latin, which translates to, I think, therefore I am. This is a solution for this eternal doubt problem. If you ever find yourself in one of those situations where you have no idea what to do or what to think about or what's absolutely sure and grounded in your life, you can follow René Descartes' example. And at the worst case situation, the worst case scenario, you are here and you are thinking about yourself and you are receiving input from the universe and receiving input from other people. And you can rely on your own experience, at least to begin the journey of certitude. Of course, Descartes takes it to other places. We're not going to follow Descartes. I just wanted to tell this initial story. Descartes takes it to the place where he wants to prove God, by the way. If you've not read the Meditations, highly recommended. So, what is knowledge? Descartes knows that he's thinking, at least. So what is that thing that he did? That certainty that he obtained, that we call I know, that statement, I know that I am thinking. What does that mean? And I also here would like to draw your attention to 3 distinctions that we all use interchangeably, and probably, you know, this is interlinked, but there is a distinction. So there's the distinction between data or data, and there's distinction between information, and there's another piece which is knowledge. So let's have a discussion between each other. Let's participate. If you have anything, just raise your hands and speak. And let me know what is it that makes, you know, data, information, you know, what's the difference, knowledge, etc.
Well, so what's the difference? Yes.
Yeah.
Data.
We have someone, John.
Yeah.
I mean, data is basically something that we have. So let's start with that question. What is it for? I mean, we formulate a question and we receive a response, and that is data, right?
If I allow myself to talk about the weather, can you tell me what is the weather data, and what is the weather information, and what is the weather knowledge?
That are the numbers. I always think about data numbers. Like the measurements. Yeah, like you say, so the measurement.
Okay.
We send the balloon up, it does its thing, and then it tells us what the weather's going to be.
Effectively, if I'm not mistaken, data is in itself does not describe anything. It is simply a unit of, it's primarily a unit of basically anything, responses, the numbers. In itself does not describe anything. So it's a unique process, effectively.
So what?
That is it.
You can hear us.
Yeah. Yeah, but in itself,
So the,
qualitative data still not describe itself unless it is put into context.
Dana, can you move the mic closer to the people speaking? It's all right if it's all right if the image is distorted. The audio is a little. It's more important.
Yeah, sorry, Aweda. It's just like today we're having technical issues.
No, okay, so I'll just like recap what we're
You can
talking
just
about.
stay here.
Yeah. Oh no, come on. So I started with data being a unit of information that in itself does not describe anything, and then yeah.
Oh,
you
sorry.
can-
Oh, whoa, hold up. You said data as a unit of information, so you're making this connection.
It is primarily because they're
Okay.
doing-
Oh, that's curious. All right.
yeah, but yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly don't know what's the difference between data and information, but all I know is that we have data cannot only be numbers and units, because we know that we have qualitative and quantitative data.
Yeah.
So quantitative data can be the units and numbers, if we agree with that,
Yeah.
and then qualitative data can be information. So in
Yeah.
the case of the example he gives, weather,
Yeah.
the degree will be the data.
Yeah.
Historical degree, how warm was it like a week ago, a month ago, or whatever,
Yeah.
can be knowledge.
Yeah.
And is it sunny? Is it warm? Is it cold? It can be information.
Yeah.
That's my understanding.
No, absolutely. But the thing with qualitative data though is
Yeah.
while qualitative data could be information in the context of it being qualitative, it only describes quality, which in itself is still a unit. And so until you gather a couple of units together and find an attribution to that, it cannot be information. It doesn't tell you anything. In itself, it's just a unit until it's put together to give information about something.
Yeah, that's what I just wanted to add, that like
Yeah.
data is raw, like
Yeah.
with
It's raw.
about this table, for example, or this scan, we can collect like so many data points
Yeah.
and so many things about it, but without actually processing it, it's just raw.
It's just raw.
Yeah. So
Cool.
data needs to be processed. It's raw without processing.
Yeah. So for example, it is sunny could tell you that it is sunny as is the time, but in the context of sun, it could be referring to summer, it could be referring to a painting. So it's only information about a specific thing when put in context, and that's where information actually comes into play. So it has to be processed in context before it can be.
I would like to take
Yeah,
one, just
yeah.
small one. Well, how can I see this difference? Data, it's something, describe it, it's some units, letters, anyway, numbers, doesn't matter. And it's just in a mess somewhere, it is data. And information, from my point, it's systematic, some system of this data, which can be used, which can be read it, which can be, I don't know, applied to some process. And knowledge, it's probably like summarizing all this information and applying it to some special situation. I don't know, like a result of processing of this information, receiving from data. Like data, something general, information, it's a way which we operate in the data, and knowledge, it's a result of.
I would go one further and say knowledge is also because of experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So knowledge is also entails experience. Yeah. So experience and the knowledge.
Very good. That you have such a nice group over there.
I do. You see?
Such beautiful ideas. Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Cool. Let me just allow me to mishmash those ideas all together in a nice, summary. Okay, most of what you said is true, and I realize that we have a lot of technical people and a lot of data scientists involved and some mathematicians I hear. So I know people are familiar with this probably on an intuitive level. So here's the formal definition of these categories. Okay, so data, as you guys said, is raw. Data is unprocessed facts. It is figures without any context or interpretation. If I'm gathering data about the weather, I'm going to say 20, 25, 30, 34, whatever. If I'm measuring, say, the temperature today, and if I have another column that measures the air pressure, the atmospheric pressure, and if I did another one to measure humidity, so I have these strings of numbers. Okay. What information is? It's this string of numbers, very well sorted, and as you guys said, very well done, by the way, processed. This data has been sorted and processed to be made available for use. Okay? It has been given context, it has been given meaning. Not to dwell on this, but meaning refers to something else. It's a connection between your data and the exterior world in somehow. Or if it doesn't mean anything to the exterior, it means something to you. It's my personal data. I love it. Okay, but it's a connection with me. So meaning always entails this connection with another universe and another world, another thing out there. Okay. Now knowledge is the big problem because we can agree on data. Data is easy. We can agree on information, but knowledge it has this definition of it's a little bit vague. Okay, when you know something, you're absolutely sure of it. That's what we use colloquially, and it's kind of forever. And there's a side that has experience in it. There's a side that has application. There's the interpretation of this information. Okay, that you had. So data creates this. Information takes this data and gives it context, and then knowledge comes in and then does a lot more. So we're not really sure about what knowledge really entails. Is it forever really? Because sometimes you say I know something and then it turns out to be wrong. So this kind of this knowledge word is a little bit loose still when we're looking at it a little bit more carefully. Because it involves some human side to it. Data can be processed by computers, and now more and more, I'm not going to go there, but it absolutely looks like ChatGPT can do some analysis of that data. It can give it to you. Whether it really does or not, that's not my topic for today. But that knowledge, it appears to have this kind of interaction with the world and interaction with the information, interaction with your past beliefs as well. So I know, for example, that people need food to survive. And then when I look at and see someone who is absolutely, let's say, they have a yellow face and they're about to faint or whatever, the first response I have is, okay, maybe they haven't eaten today. But I'm relying on previous knowledge and previous experiences and so on. This is nowhere in the information or the data I have right now, receiving the one-to-one input from watching that person hungry. So this is the main problem here. The actual definition of the word I know. And this is a very old problem. This goes back to the old ages of philosophers, when we had philosophers in India and Egypt and Sumeria and the Greeks. So we have all these old schools. I'm talking 2,000, 3,000 years ago. And from what we know, the first person who actually defined knowledge in an operational way, quote unquote operational, is the Greek philosopher Plato. I'm sure some of you are familiar with this concept. He defined knowledge as 3 conditions. It's justified through belief. So when I say, I know it's raining today, or I know I am talking to people from Y today, I need to satisfy 3 conditions. I need to satisfy that it is actually true. So it is actually raining today. I need to believe myself that it is raining. And I need to have good reasons or justified reasons to believe the case. So anything that falls under justified true belief can be called knowledge now. And this definition looks very good. This definition was so nice that it survived almost 2,300 years. And I say it survived almost 2,300 years because there is a problem with it. Let's see, can you spot the problem? If you already cheated and you know the rest of the story, don't. But if you're hearing this for the first time, I want to hear your opinions. Do you think this is good enough, or can you find a loophole somewhere?
Can I say something?
Sure.
What is true? What is justifiable? So how do we measure the truth? How do we measure justifiable? And what you believe is what you believe. You're okay with that, but like, how do we measure the truth?
Those are very good questions. Those are excellent questions. Okay, that's exactly what we're looking at here. So just by looking at this,
I cheated.
You cheated. Yeah, I know you cheated. Just by looking at this here, there's a lot hidden under the rug. When I say justified by what? According to what logic? I feel justified to receive $1 million because I'm wearing red today. That's a justification. Nobody agrees to it, but that's a justification. Okay, so let's go back to the initial start of the discussion. Let's create agreement. Everybody who wears red today can receive $1 million. Does that make it a valid reason? Like if everybody agrees on it, that's it, that's all we need? And what about the knowledge that has to do with the scientific body of knowledge, like the world we cannot control, we just receive input from? Can we just all agree to make the speed of light slower now? So, or is it something inherent in the universe somewhere, in the fabric of space and time, right? And you can go fetch for that knowledge somewhere. You can ask the universe, can you tell me what the speed of light is? And then the universe can reply to you. And then you can call this knowledge. But for us, it's kind of easy to find this now because we are all trained into this skeptic sort of school. People back in the day found this very attractive until, and you will not believe this, until a man called Gettier, American philosopher Edmund Gettier, who died in 2021, very recently, he wrote this essay called Is Justified Through Belief Knowledge? So is this theory that Plato posited that stand, untouched for 2,000 years, is that the case? And it's a 3-page essay. If I tell you the amount of I don't even know the amount of volumes that's been written, in support of the justified through belief theory. Everybody was writing it, even, the church philosophers, even, hundreds and hundreds of pages have been written. He wrote a 3-page essay to detail what he thinks is a case that breaks this rule. And I will try to give you the case today, or one example of the case. And then the last thing we will do today is ask you to generate infinitely many of those. Once we know the trick, once we discover where the missing part is, we can generate a lot more things from this logic. So this is one of the Gettier cases. Okay, this is one story. As you can see here, there's a guy and he's walking in the desert. There's a big dune in front of him. He cannot see behind. Okay. And as you walk in the desert, he sees, or she, a sort of mirage. And then it appears that there's some water over there. So he utters the sentence, I know that there is water. Okay? This is the sentence that this person utters. And let's examine that sentence. Is it true? We don't know. We haven't verified because he hasn't reached that place there. But is it justified? Yes, it is. Because, he sees or there's something that looks like a lake, so he's justified into believing that. And he believes it. So 2 of the 3 conditions are already met. We are waiting for the condition that says, is it true or not? So this person starts walking towards this mirage, this lake, and he finally reaches the place. And he's like, no, it was a mirage. I was wrong. But as he climbs over the hill, he finds that by accident, there was another pond of water behind the hill and he couldn't see it before. Okay? So again, he stands in the desert. He says, I know there is water here somewhere. He goes to the source that he thought before was water, couldn't find it, but then behind the hill, unbeknownst to him, finds the water he's looking for. Okay? Can we say that this is justified? Yes. Can we say that it's a belief? Yes. Can we say it is true that there is water somewhere? Yes. All three conditions have been met. Are we comfortable calling this man knowledgeable of the place? I wouldn't be. Based on that fake evidence, it's a complete hoax. It could have been the case that there's absolutely nothing here, and then that statement could have been false. This claim was lucky to be knowledge. So our criteria, Plato's criteria of a justified true belief, had something missing. There's a fourth condition. There's something missing so that it becomes a true definition of knowledge. And guess what? People have been working to bridge this gap ever since Gettier found this case. People have been trying to write and propose other definitions of knowledge. Some people dropped the justification altogether. Some people dropped the truth altogether. Some people started adding fourth conditions and fifth conditions and how do we know, etc., etc., etc. But this was the end of the classical era. Like, I don't want to say the end of that, but this was the last probably idea that was remaining from the classic world, which is very strong and very robust. And Gettier, with his genius example here, kind of ended it. Is the example clear? I'm going to ask you first of all. And if you have any questions, just let me know. And if you can think of other cases and you can invent them now, that'd be great. Let's share all these stories. We can invent as many stories as you want.
My primary question is, fine, there is no, he sees the mirage, he goes over this dune, and then he finds it as water and it's accidental. But can we say that how now do we, is it the crossing of the dune? Because I think everything changes at the crossing of the dune, basically. So what would you call that point? Because I think that's like the kind of turning point, but I don't know if there's like a specific idea of that in philosophy where that dune signifies a particular turning point to true knowledge, since that's the point between the mirage and objective reality.
There is a very easy name for it. It's called experiment. So at the initial stage where he utters the sentence, he was justified to believe that there is a lake because he sees it, right? And he believed it. But then the last condition, which is the truth, is when he walks towards that lake. Now you can ask the question, what kind of experiments can we do to verify that we're not missing anything? Because another version of the story can go as, this guy goes, finds nothing, does not go over the dune, and then continues his life normally. Right? It could have been the case. And guess what? It was the case for a lot of things. An easy example is the flat earth. Again, for millennia, the easiest thing to disprove was that the earth is flat. The easiest thing. When Aristotelius did it and others, it was so easy. All you need is some sticks. That's it. The sticks and then watching shadows. That's all you need. But for millennia, we believed, without actually doing the experiment, without checking, we believed that the earth was flat. So now you can ask questions about our scientific method. What kind of experiments should we always do to ensure that we're not missing anything? To ensure that there is no dune in my mind here hiding the actual truth. And I'm thinking, yeah, this is fine. This is the end of the world, right? This is the last ocean, the Mediterranean, the Atlantic and the Pacific were the limits before we discovered the Americas. This is the edge of the world it was. So now this is again an invitation for us to revisit our own perceptions of the world and to revisit this comfort zone that we've built around our beliefs, because we all have beliefs, and to re-examine the certainty that we have towards these beliefs. It's an emotional certainty. We dislike, psychologists call it cognitive dissonance. So whenever you find out something new, you're very annoyed. This guy here was lucky, but we might not be. And this kind of story is again to remind us that be humble. And science is kind of reminding us all the time with the new scientific method now. And your question is wonderful about what experiments we can do. Humbleness is the number one lesson from this story. Okay. Can you guys invent? Do you have any other questions to begin with? And can we invent other stories? Can you guys imagine another story that is also a Gettier case?
We have one, John. One second.
Hi.
Hello.
Actually, this was a Gettier case that I had seen before.
Uh-huh.
Of course, it's very, very similar, but it was essentially a man walking among some hills, and he saw something that looked like a sheep. So he said, "Oh, there's a sheep." But upon closer inspection, of course, it was a very fluffy dog. But just behind the next hill was a sheep. So, yeah, was he incorrect to say there's a sheep out there?
Absolutely. The original Gettier case, by the way, has nothing to do with sheep and mountains. It has to do with a guy who has some coins in his pockets. And he says, whoever who has 10 coins will take the job. So two guys were competing for a job. And whoever who has 10 coins in his pocket will take the job. Okay. And then the guy goes in, not knowing that he has 10 coins in his pocket. And then he gets the job. And he's like, is he justified to believe that the 10 coins in his pocket now get him the job? So it's kind of a superstitious sort of attitude. You can generate a multitude of these examples. Come on, let's go. One more. Let's think of something or an ordinary life, like, a fight between you and your significant other. Let's go there, actually.
You can do that one.
You can actually.
Yeah, tell us, what do you have in mind?
What do I have in mind? Are you kidding me? No, but I know too much. So I believe that you cheated on me, or I believe that you love me, and I believe that whatever, right? And I was justified into believing so, because I saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 signs, and I believe it. But then upon closer inspection, turns out to be not the case. Okay? So that justified true belief attitude did not serve me. Now you might reply and say, oh, but I did not go behind the dune. I did not check your Instagram. I did not check your WhatsApp. I didn't check your whatever. And then we can talk about what kind of experiment you could do, what kind of experiments you should do, what kind of experiments you're allowed to do. So ethics comes involved here as well. But again, this feeling of certainty that we experience in our emotional day-to-day life, it is a very good idea to tone it down whenever we don't have very solid, strong evidence. And even if we have solid, strong evidence, being humble about it and being very careful about what that evidence actually means and actually entails would be a very good idea. This person would have been better if he said, I think that there is water before I go there and before the hill. That would have been a much more humbler claim to make. I think that there is some water over there. I haven't went there yet. I haven't gone there yet. And probably when I go there, I still don't know what's behind the hill. That would have been a very much, that landing, from believing something true to finding out it's wrong, it would have been a much smoother landing than to make the absolute arrogant claim and then finding out you're absolutely wrong.
John, we have one more question.
Yes.
Yeah. This question is from me. It's both the question and also I know philosophy is usually people say it's not applicable, but I'm going to try to put in that context. If, for example, you're trying to prove something to somebody, and you say, in this case, I believe something is beyond this, and then you present some form of data, some sort of stuff, you've actually already gone past that, and then the person says, oh, this data is not data enough. Where does that, because the dune is not as easy to surpass as we think in an ideal situation.
Absolutely, yes.
There are always many layers of the dune, and this always puts knowledge into question. So is it safe to say that knowledge is always something that is constantly in flux and something that's constantly being embattled to the point where it can be proven? Because it's always, in fact, just like, Plato was also debunked by Gettier. Can we also say that there could be another dune that, that is behind the dune that we can see? So in a sense, not necessarily that we don't see the oasis and there's the mirage of the oasis, but there's also a mirage of the dune. And we don't really see a dune.
Really?
Or
Yeah.
You don't see that, yeah. So that's
Absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. We haven't asked questions about that. Maybe that dune is this fictional thing stopping you from, like it's in your head. There is no barrier really, but you believe that there is one. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And to go back to your point about knowledge being.
He doesn't hear you very well. That's
No worries, no worries.
John.
Yes.
No, I just said like sometimes like putting this into a practical situation where we say we have to do an experiment, sometimes we ask for data's sake, going back to the empirics of data to information to knowledge. But in fact, there is just a mirage of a dune. And so it's not even a mirage of the goal, but it's the mirage of the dune, that there's a dune that we have to, overcome, and in fact it's not really there.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And this goes back again very deep in the scientific method. So to go back to the earlier point, I'm not sure if it's the same person. I can't see you guys. But to go back to that point about what kind of experiments can and we cannot do, and what kind of experiments should we always advise people to do. So this goes back very deep into the scientific method. To tell the scientist, be careful. There's a usual trap that people fall into when they're collecting data, which is this question of how do you deal with data and how responsible you have to be with your data and how responsible you have to be with your experiment. I saw an experiment the other day on social media claiming that they can test morality with kids, and they showed them like a friendly triangle helping a square. And the kids always picked the triangle because the triangle was the good guy in the story, right? Helping the square. And one can think of an objection to this experiment saying, they picked the triangle because it's yellow, and the other square, well, let's say it was blue or it was some pale color. So the more attractive color was like easier for them to pick. It had nothing to do with kids experiencing morality or knowing who the good guy, or I mean, not kids, I mean little babies, 6 months old. Not knowing who the good guy or the bad guy is, they're just picking the bright color. So here it's the response. I'm not sure if I'm really answering your question, but it's always the responsibility of the scientist, and that's why we have this system of criticism and revision in science, so that whenever someone makes a mistake, you can review them, and then you can tell them, okay, I think you made a mistake, and people can open the debate, so that we can get around this very difficult issue, which is we don't know when we know. Really, we're never sure, and this is a very uncomfortable place to be.
Yeah.
If you really want certainty, but if you give it up, then you are in the scientific world now, which is a lot more malleable. Yes.
John, one more question.
Yeah.
Maybe that can be an advice from you, because you are inviting us to be comfortable not being certain. So to humble ourselves enough to threaten our certainty, right?
Mm-hmm.
On a psychological level, what's your advice to us to be comfortable enough with being uncertain about very important things in our lives, very important situations? Sometimes it's really hard to be uncertain, so we kind of psychologically choose to stick to what we know and what's familiar, what's certain for us. So do you have an advice in that sense before we...
Absolutely. I mean, whatever I'm going to say is very much easier said than done. So just a disclaimer at the beginning. I'm also bad at this, okay? But from a place where I'm very cold now and I'm very calm, whatever Descartes did in this presentation, where he put all his beliefs in a big basket and he started taking the rotten ones first, I think we can all start there. Gather around everything that is in your head, every worry, every problem, everything that you feel you're certain of, and start picking the worst possible. We always do this terrible thing to ourselves, which is just get away from the annoying stuff. Like there's something annoying me, there's something tiring me, there's something that I'm insecure towards. And instead of looking carefully into it, we just avoid thinking about it. And we are very skillful at this. We look at our phones in weird times. If you just can watch yourselves, when is it that we look at our phone? We look at our phone whenever we are embarrassed, whenever we are confused, whenever we are lonely, whenever we are anxious. You're never looking at your phone when you're having fun or when you're comfortable. It's whenever you want to avoid thinking about something, you go and then you look up that thing on the internet, and you know what I mean? And so if we start just bringing that big basket of our belief, just being aware of the problem is half the solution always. And then you start picking that worst apple. And instead of, as you say, being anxious towards it, start feeling compassion to yourself. And imagine that there is another friend that you are giving the advice to. So this is not my basket of apples, it's someone else's. And I see that very rotten apple, and try to talk to yourself, or even write. Some people enjoy, I write my own thoughts sometimes, and I read them later. So it's a good exercise if you try it, if it works for you. And then you start telling people, you start telling yourself as if you're talking to someone else, and you say, if I was your friend, what would my advice would be? And if sometimes this advice is leave your job, or if sometimes this advice is leave your relationship, or if sometimes this advice is leave your religion, or go back to your religion, talk to your father again, I don't know. These kind of very sensitive topics that we feel the need for certainty in, try to ground that certainty into something you choose at least, instead of something that you've taken from someone or inherited from someone, using this kind of very friendly, basic dialogue as if you're talking to a friend. Does that solve all problems in life? I'm not sure. People are different. They have different characters. But from experience, personal and with other people around me, it works. I'm not sure if this is good advice for you specifically, or for that particular problem. Some problems we just cannot solve and we cannot deal with. And some problems require medical assistance. You know, you are very depressed, or you are suicidal, or whatever. But for our daily problems, I think this being self-aware in that manner is very, very good. It's a very good start, at least.
All right. Very nice. Very nice. To be mindful of time, I know you have another presentation right now. We took all of your hour. Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome. It was my pleasure. Thank you so very much.
Yeah.
It's just a brief summary of what we talked about. I'm sure you guys remember. And thank you very much for having me. You can follow me on YouTube. I'm going to leave the link with Ms Slaleh here. You can join our house. We have a YouTube channel called The Scientific Discourse. I'm part of a group of 4 or 5 people. We talk about science, we talk about philosophy, we talk about history sometimes, biomedics, informatics, computation, whatever it is that you're thinking about. We do these rooms on an application called Clubhouse. If you're not familiar, you can always attend. And the best rooms, the best discussions, we upload them on YouTube. If you just Google The Scientific Discourse, or if you Google my name, you will find me on YouTube and you can follow. Thank you so very much for having me. I really enjoyed this hour. Good luck with that philosophy club. This is amazing.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Enjoy.
Thanks.